Have you ever wondered how our ancestors not only survived, but thrived in the wild without any of the gear we have today? No GPS, no Gore-Tex jackets, no fancy fishing rods. Just pure skill, ingenuity, and a deep connection with nature. Today, we're stepping back in time to rediscover the lost arts of ancient wilderness survival. How did they find food, build shelter, and navigate the world around them? This isn't just about survival. It's about understanding the incredible resilience and intelligence of the people who came before us. Stick around, because you're about to learn some mind-blowing techniques that modern survivalists are still trying to master. Let's start with the most fundamental need: water. We know the rule of threes: 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. For our ancestors, finding clean drinking water was a daily priority. They didn't have purification tablets or high-tech filters. So how did they do it? They were expert readers of the landscape. They knew that lush green vegetation, especially in a dry area, was a massive signpost pointing towards a water source. They followed animal tracks, not just for hunting, but because animals instinctively know where to find water. They also looked for certain types of insects, like bees, which need water to survive and usually stay within a few miles of it. In the mornings, they would collect dew from leaves and grasses, sometimes using animal hides or large leaves as a makeshift collection basin. And in a pinch, they could even dig a seep in a damp-looking riverbed, letting the sand and gravel naturally filter the water as it filled the hole. It was a constant search, guided by a profound understanding of nature's subtle cues. Once water was secured, the next challenge was food. Let's talk fishing. Forget about fancy reels and carbon fiber rods. Ancient peoples were masters of passive and active fishing methods. One of the most ingenious techniques was building a fish where. This is basically a man-made funnel or fence built in a river or tidal area. They would use rocks or drive stakes into the riverbed, creating a V-shape that would guide fish into a narrow, inescapable trap. At low tide, or when the river level dropped, they could simply walk in and collect their dinner. They also wove nets from natural fibers like nettle, yucca, or the inner bark of certain trees. It was a painstaking process, but a well-made net could feed a family for days. For more active fishing, they crafted multi-pronged spears, known as leasters, with sharpened bone or flint tips. They would wade into the shallows, patiently waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And let's not forget fishhooks, which are one of the oldest tools ever discovered, some dating back over 40,000 years. They were carved from bone, shell, or even thorns, and attached to a line made from twisted plant fibers or animal sinew. It was all about using exactly what the environment provided. Now, let's move on to land and the art of hunting. Hunting was a high-risk, high-reward activity that required immense skill, patience, and teamwork. The primary weapon for millennia was the spear. Early humans used simple, sharpened wooden spears, but later developed the game-changing autlot, or spear thrower. This device was a true force multiplier. It acted as an extension of the arm, allowing a hunter to throw a spear or dart with far greater velocity and power than by hand alone. It meant they could hunt larger, more dangerous animals like bison or mammoths from a safer distance. Another key tool was the bow and arrow. This invention revolutionized hunting by offering increased range, accuracy, and the ability to carry multiple shots. The arrows were tipped with masterfully crafted stone points or arrowheads, each one a small work of art designed for maximum penetration. But hunting wasn't just about weapons, it was about strategy. Our ancestors were master trackers. They could read the ground like a book, identifying an animal's species, its size, its speed, and even its health, all from its tracks. They used stealth and camouflage, sometimes covering themselves in mud or wearing animal hides to mask their scent and blend into the surroundings. They understood animal behavior intimately, knowing their migration patterns, their feeding times, and their reactions to threats. Group hunting was also common, with people working together to drive herds of animals into ambushes or over cliffs. a technique known as a buffalo jump. This level of coordination and knowledge shows a deep, almost spiritual connection to the animals they hunted, often with rituals performed to honor the animal spirit. Beyond big game, ancient peoples were incredible opportunists. They relied heavily on trapping smaller animals, which was a much more energy-efficient way to get protein. They designed all sorts of ingenious traps using natural materials. The deadfall trap, for instance, used a trigger mechanism made of sticks to drop a heavy rock or log onto an unsuspecting animal. Snare traps, made from flexible saplings and looped cords of sinew or vine, were set along game trails to catch animals like rabbits and birds. Every part of the environment was seen as a potential tool. They also foraged extensively. They knew which plants were edible, which were medicinal, and which were poisonous. This was knowledge passed down through generations, a mental encyclopedia of botany that was essential for survival. Berries, nuts, roots, and tubers were staple foods that supplemented their diet of meat and fish. They knew how to process certain foods, like leaching the tannins out of acorns to make them edible. This combination of hunting, trapping, and foraging created a resilient and diverse food strategy. With food and water sorted, the next priority was shelter. A good shelter protects you from the elements, keeps you warm, and provides safety from predators. Ancient peoples were masters of building shelters using only natural materials. The simplest was the liantu, made by leaning branches against a fallen log, a rock face, or a ridgepole supported by two trees. The frame would then be covered with bark, leaves, and moss to create a waterproof and insulated roof. In forested areas, they built debris huts. This involved creating a sturdy frame of branches and then piling on heaps of dry leaves, pine needles, and other forest debris, sometimes a foot or two thick. When you crawl inside, your own body heat warms up the small space, and the thick layer of debris acts as incredible insulation, keeping you surprisingly warm even in freezing temperatures. In areas with fewer trees, they might dig pit houses or use natural rock overhangs and caves. The key was always the same: use the local landscape to your advantage and create a small, well-insulated space. Fire was the heart of the ancient camp. It provided warmth, light, protection from predators, a way to cook food, and a social focal point. But how did they make it without matches or a lighter? The two most common ancient methods were the hand drill and the bow drill. The hand drill involves rapidly spinning a hard wooden spindle against a softer wooden fireboard. The friction creates a fine, hot powder or ember, which is then transferred to a tinder bundle of dry grass, shredded bark, or cattail fluff. The bow drill is a more advanced and efficient version of this. It uses a bow to spin the spindle much faster and with more consistent pressure, making it easier to generate an ember. Another method was the flint and pyrite method. By striking a piece of flint against a piece of iron pyrite, you can create sparks. If these sparks land on the right kind of tinder, like charred cloth or certain types of fungus, they can be coaxed into a flame. Mastering firemaking was a rite of passage and one of the most important skills a person could possess. It truly separated humans from the rest of the animal kingdom. What we've explored today is just the tip of the iceberg. The ingenuity of our ancestors was astounding. They created cordage from plant fibers, tools from stone, baskets from reeds, and clothes from animal hides. They navigated using the sun, the stars, and prevailing winds. Their survival wasn't just a collection of tricks. It was a way of life, a deep, holistic knowledge of the natural world that we have largely lost. Studying these ancient skills isn't just a history lesson. It reconnects us with our own past and with the earth itself. It reminds us that with knowledge, observation, and respect for nature, the wilderness isn't a place to be feared, but a home that provides everything we need. Thanks for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this fascinating, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with anyone who loves history, survival, or the great outdoors. See you in the next one.